Hello and welcome to Sunday Tea. I am your host, Danielle Lee. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. I would like to set the intention that when this message finds you, it will help you along your healing journey and it will really allow you to realize your self-worth. And today I want to talk about self-love. What does it mean and how does it feel to truly love yourself? And I'm not coming from a social media perspective. Sorry to say, we're not getting up at 5 a.m. We're not running ice baths and we're not hitting the gym by 7 a.m. You know, we're not talking about 5-star spas or the latest luxury gym. Although if that's part of your self-care routine, absolutely. But, you know, that's not the angle that I'm taking here. The self-love I'm talking about is a lot less glamorous, and I just want to put it into some context before I continue. When I decided to start this podcast just over a month ago, it's something that I've always wanted to do in terms of like helping people, but I didn't know how I was actually going to deliver it. So I guess, you know, doing a podcast was probably the most obvious thing, but it wasn't something that I was able to envision or something that I felt I was confident enough to, you know, take on at that time. So just over a month ago, I decided to bite the bullet and do it. And I said to myself, you know, if I do this podcast, I have to be prepared to be vulnerable in a sense. I can't do a podcast telling people how they can improve their lives or how to, you know, try and heal and overcome your trauma if I'm not willing to be vulnerable myself. And me and vulnerability do not go together very well. So I will do my best. And yeah, the reason why this podcast today is really important to me is because I know how powerful learning to love yourself truly is. And I have had a very chaotic and traumatic past. Since the age of 12, I've been in many unpleasant situations in my life. And it wasn't until, you know, I would say I had an awakening, a very rude awakening. And it initially started back in 2011. But at that time, I wasn't able to like perceive what was happening. It didn't make any sense to me. All I know is that I was in a very dark place and it was a very dark time. And although the years before that had been very dark, this was like the grand finale of darkness. And at that time, I was more or less alone. I had a couple of people around me, but for the majority of, you know, that decade, the people who I thought would be there in my life, they were not. And it really woke me up in more ways than I'd actually realized now that I look back. And even though that initial awakening began in 2011, I was in like, I was just like walking in darkness. That's the only way I can describe it. I couldn't see the light. I was walking in that darkness for maybe 4 to 5 years before I realized something isn't right here. What is wrong in my life? What have I done in my life to be here? What has caused me to be where I am right now? And I would say I wasn't even, I didn't know anything about awakening. I wasn't spiritual. I'm not religious. I believe in God. I believe in a higher power. Yes, I've always had faith, which has probably carried me through most of the situations I've been in. But I was never that person to be like, you know, talking about spirituality or anything like that. That wasn't me. So after about 5 years of darkness and entering into more situations that would just lead me to more darkness, I got to a point in around 2016 where I felt like I literally had a breakdown. And I remember calling my cousin one day and I started crying like, I don't know who I am. Like, I'm just so lost. I just don't recognize myself. Who I was before 2011 wasn't the person that I was after 2011, if that makes sense. And that day I called my cousin and told her about, you know, how I was feeling. I remember standing in the bathroom. I literally cut my hair off. I mean, I was growing it out anyway, and I was trying to, you know, grow it, and it was a mess anyway. I literally cut my hair off like to about an inch. And at the time, obviously, you know, I wasn't thinking anything of it. Like, I wasn't thinking my mental state was in such a bad place. Because, you know, I've spent my whole life in this mode of fight or flight. I've spent my entire life, like, going through such trauma that I was in a constant state of survival mode. So this was just like another thing that I would have to deal with. So yeah, just to not go into it too much, I spoke to my cousin and she said to me, you know, maybe you're not the person that you used to be, but this is a chance for you to like create like a new identity, you know? And at that time I thought, well, how am I going to do that? It's like a blank slate. I had no desire for life. I'd fallen out of love with everything I used to do, like singing, reading, writing, cooking. I literally was just surviving to get through each day. I had no passion for anything, you know? And around 2018, I realized I can't suffer like this anymore. And most of the suffering that I had been through was due to somebody else. And I obviously now I am aware that I chose to put myself in those situations. I had the choice whether to enter into those situations or not, but I'm not responsible for what those people done to me in my life, if that makes sense, you know? So obviously I'm not going to take responsibility on that part. But, yeah, just to run things along, I got to 2018 and I realized things really have to change. I was at a point where I couldn't even speak. I couldn't express myself. If, like, the words physically would not come out of my mouth. And I remember calling another one of my cousins, crying that I didn't know what was wrong with me. Like, why can't I talk? Why can't I express myself? Why can't I? Everything was just a mess. And she said, you know, you need to clear your throat chakra. And I'm like, what is the throat chakra? Like, what are you talking about? I had no clue about any of these things like chakras, meditating. And yeah, I've heard of meditation, but it's not something I ever had a desire to do. So she took me to this crystal shop. And at this point, I'm like, do you know what? It's not going to harm me, is it, to try it? So she took me to this crystal shop and the lady said, you know, what's wrong? And I spoke to her and she said, you know, have a look at these crystals and choose the one which you resonate with the most. And I picked out a crystal. It was blue, is it Chalcedony? I don't know how you pronounce it. But it was this crystal right here, my very first crystal. And when I held it, I literally just burst into tears. And I'm not a crier. I'm not a person who cries. Like, people who cry a lot, I've always found that, like, you know, quite annoying. And maybe that's just toxic of me, but I'm not a crier. So obviously when I held that crystal, it helped me to release a lot of things that I was holding inside. And it was actually a turning point for me that there is something out there bigger than myself. And it set me on the journey of self-discovery, I guess. And it's been very difficult. It's been very challenging. And when I made the realization that I do not love myself, I had to really sit with that, as difficult as it was, and try to find out why. What was it that didn't make me feel worthy? What was it that didn't make me feel good enough? What was it that didn't make me feel like I was somebody who had value? And there are many things that I came up with, but ultimately I had to ask myself, what do I need to do to learn how to love myself? Now, to look at me, like, on the outside, you wouldn't know I was going through any of that trauma. And I used to think that, you know, waking up in the morning and getting dressed, doing my hair, putting on a bit of mascara, you know, that's all I needed to do, you know, to make myself feel good. But none of that was making me feel good, obviously, because I was out there still repeating the same damaging cycles and repeating those same damaging patterns that were keeping me stuck. They were not helping me to grow in any way, shape or form. They were just attracting more and more and more and more and more crap into my life. So when I talk about self-love, as much as, you know, everyone's perception of self-love is going to be different, okay? I'm not here to tell you how to love yourself. How you choose to love yourself is entirely up to you. But I know what I done that really helped to transform my mindset, and it really helped me to raise my value and my confidence and my self-worth. And it's started with realizing how much time and energy I was putting into other people. And it's something I've done all of my life, pouring into other people. Chronic people pleaser. Always the one that's there to help. Always the one that's there to give advice. Oh, you need someone to wash up. I'll come over and happily wash up for you. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I was always the one that people would run to when they needed help. And I don't want to sound horrible, but when I needed help and when I was in the darkest depths of despair, the people that I'd been spending all of my time and energy on, they were not there. And it was a real eye-opener for me. And I had to ask myself, why have I been pouring into other people virtually my entire life? And I'm not blaming those people for not being there for me. I'm not bitter at them for not being there for me, because the truth of the matter is, that was my way of showing love. That was my way of, you know, if I love you, I'm going to do things for you. If I love you, I'm very much an act of, I'm very much going to do, you know, acts of service, and I'm very much going to spend my time and my energy on you. That's how I am if I love you. So I had to realize it was a way for me to distract myself from my own trauma and the things that I needed to do, or the things that were preventing me from addressing my trauma. So by pouring into other people, I didn't have to focus on myself, you know? I obviously didn't realize at the time that I wasn't dealing with my trauma. I was running away from it. And when I made that realization, I said, you know what? All of these years, I've been pouring from an empty cup. My cup was so dry. It was so murky. There was nothing left for me to pour out of. There was nothing there. And I made a promise to myself that very day to stop pouring into other people. And it wasn't easy. I carried a lot of guilt for a long, long time. But, sorry if I'm getting a bit all over the place here. 2020 was the point in time when, you know, I had no choice but to be in isolation. And that was almost the universe's way of telling me, this is your time now to get your shit together. There's no other time. This is it. And I literally loved being in that period of isolation. I literally loved it. I can't tell you how much. I think I went a solid 4 months without speaking to anybody. And it was the first time in my life that I'd actually had peace. Real, like, peace. And I realized I've spent all of these years pouring. I've got nothing left to give myself. And from that moment, I decided I'm going to pour. I'm going to take everything I've been giving to other people and I'm going to pour it into myself. And guess what? There were people who didn't like it. They didn't like the changes they were seeing in me. They call me weird. She's different now. the phone calls stopped, you know? The relationships and the dynamics of the relationships that I had completely changed. And so that's kind of a bit of my background and why I feel like, you know, I'm able to sit here and have this conversation in telling you or giving you some insight into, you know, what it's going to take to start loving yourself. And the moment you make that decision to start loving yourself, it will transform your life. And I'm not saying that just for the sake of it. I'm saying learning to love yourself will transform your life. And the first thing that I don't think I've done any of this by myself. I truly believe in the power of the universe. I believe in my angels and my spirit guides and my ancestors. And I know for a fact they have been guiding me along this journey each and every step of the way. Even when I've had nobody, I've had my spirit team guiding me. And I'm truly grateful and I'm truly thankful for them. But this isn't what we're going to be speaking about. So the first thing that I done to learn how to love myself was this. I used to have a very negative mindset. And I mean, I came from a very negative environment. So to think negatively was normal. And when I started to realize how negative my thinking and my thought patterns were, I decided, you know, it had to change. But how am I going to change? And for me, it wasn't that complicated. The process obviously is complicated, but the process itself is complicated, but you know, the actual concept of it isn't. So in order to start loving myself, I realized, do you know what? I have to build up my self-awareness. And I decided to start by listening to myself, by listening to my negative self-talk, the way I thought about myself, the way I thought about other people, situations, circumstances. And I would listen to the thought and I would analyze it in a way of, is this even useful? Because most of the thoughts I was having were completely irrelevant to anything really that would contribute positively to my life. And if it wasn't a thought worth having, I would chuck it out. I would literally say, stop, just go. And if it was a thought I was having that had some, you know, meaning behind it, and it might have been a thought that I necessarily didn't like, I would sit with it and I would ask myself, why am I having this thought? What is making me think this way? And when I felt like I found the answer, I would, you know, address it and let it be gone. I would just let it go. And it's like a muscle. It's like a muscle. It's difficult at first. You have to like build on it. You have to work on it. And you have to catch yourself and remember to catch yourself and where your mind is at that time that you catch yourself, because negative thoughts can escalate really quickly. And when you get into the pattern of starting to recognize them, and when they are there and you stop it, it's like a muscle. It gets stronger and stronger. And I would literally, I'd be washing up, for example, and a negative thought would come into my mind, and I would just say, shut the fuck up. That's all I would say. Shut up. And I would think of like the thought and then turn it into something positive. Every time a negative thought would come by, I would push it away and replace it with something positive. That was the first thing I done. It didn't obviously happen overnight, but the more you do it, the stronger it becomes. Like, the more you do it, the less the negative thoughts get into your head, right? And then you'll get to a point one day where you're like, I'm barely thinking any positive, I'm barely thinking anything like negative, and it just becomes a way for you to shift your mindset and realize how poisonous negative thinking is. That was the first thing that I did. The second thing I did was start learning to say no. And for me, it was a huge challenge in saying no to people, because I'd spent my entire life saying yes, even at the expense of my own time, which is your most valuable asset. Your time is the most valuable asset you will ever have, okay? So be careful where you spend it. And I just want to say as well, what I'm saying, I don't care if you're 18 and I don't care if you're 80. It's never too late to start. It's never too early, and it's never too late to start learning to love yourself, okay? Just understand that. The earlier you learn to love yourself, the better it will be. And if you are starting to love yourself later on in life, it's still not too late, okay? So, learning to say no was a big one, because I'd been saying yes to everybody in my life, like my entire life. And when I started to say no, even though I feel, the people around me were starting to fall out of my life and the distance between us was growing anyway, it became that much more distant. And it really makes you realize, who is genuinely there for you because they want to be in your life, and who is there because they're benefiting from you in some way, shape or form. And I feel God removed so many people from my life without me even having to do anything. And people's true colours were just being revealed to me left, right and centre. And I couldn't deny it, and I couldn't ignore it. And I decided that I'm not going to pour into people anymore. Call me selfish, call me what you want. I don't care. I'm going to pour into my cup until it's overflowing. And when it's overflowing, if I decide I'm in a position to help you, then that's what I'll do. But it will never be at the detriment to myself, ever. And obviously, if somebody is desperately in need, I'm not going to turn them away, but I'm not going to sacrifice my time or my energy anymore for people who don't appreciate it. That's what I'm saying. Because you can go through life feeling like the energy you're giving to people, they're going to give back to you, and they don't. And when you realize that about certain people in your life, be it family, might be your friends, it's really fucking hurtful. It hurts. It's hurtful to know that there are people out there who will contribute to your downfall when you're at your lowest point. Yeah? There are people out there who will revel in seeing you down, and they'll use that as an opportunity to step on you, to lift themselves up. I'm not saying everybody is like that, but I've had experiences in my life where people have been that way. And, you know, it's really hurtful when people go out of their way to slander your name or tell lies about you, create a narrative that isn't true, betray you, stab you in your back. You know, the worst kind of people you can be around are people who gossip, because guaranteed they'll gossip to you, and when your back's turned, they'll be gossiping about you. Yeah? But at the same time, this is where self-awareness comes in and learning to love yourself, because if you love yourself, you won't put yourself in these situations. If you learn to love yourself, you will not attract these people into your life. They will have to fall back because you're moving on. The bottom line is, it's not about blaming other people, because they are who they are. They are who they are. You, on the other hand, have a choice. You have a choice, and you've always had a choice to enter a situation or go in another direction. You have a choice in everything that you do. You're not responsible for what happens after you make that choice all of the time. No. But you chose to, for example, you chose to smoke. You chose to drink alcohol. You've chosen to have unprotected sex. You've chosen to take illegal substances. You may have been led there. You may have been around the wrong company. But the fact of the matter is, you chose to do it. It was your choice. Nobody made you do it. Well, in some instances, perhaps, but you had the choice whether to do it or not. And you also have the choice to change it as well. You have the choice, right? How can I sit here and complain about hating two-faced gossips when I'm choosing to be around people who gossip? How can I want to stop smoking, but I'm still choosing to be in environments where people smoke? How can I say I don't want to take drugs anymore, but yet I'm choosing to stay in the same friendship group that wants to party every weekend? It doesn't make sense. So you have the choice to make the decision about where you want your life to go. Don't be desperate for friendships. Don't be desperate to be around people. Learn to be alone. Learn to take time to get to know yourself. And I know it's difficult for some people to be alone. But would you rather be around people who backstab you and talk shit behind your back? Like, is that a better option than being alone? If you're lucky if you have one good friend. If you have two good friends, you're very lucky. But I think there are a lot of people nowadays who are pretty lonely. And the best friend you are going to have is yourself. So if you can learn to love yourself, you're going to put yourself in a situation where you're going to attract other people who will love you. You're going to attract better situations and circumstances into your life. When you're coming from a place of self-hate, you're only going to attract people who are also coming from a place of self-hate. When you've had a traumatic past and you're dealing with a lot of trauma, it's very easy to become disconnected from yourself. It's very easy to, have a dysregulated nervous system in this fight or flight mode, or you're just in survival mode. You don't really think far enough. You don't think far ahead. You don't think enough ahead to say well, why am I making these mistakes? Why am I repeating these patterns? You can go to therapy, obviously, is very helpful, but having the self-realization of why you're doing these things takes a lot of time, and you have to be in the right environment in order to make these realizations. Because playing the victim, I don't want to sound mean, and I'm not in any way, shape or form minimizing your experiences or the hurt or pain or trauma that you've been through. But living in the past isn't serving you in any way, shape or form. Living in the past is just adding to your hurt, and you are not going to make any progress in terms of healing yourself. I've said this before, your experience is absolutely valid. Your experience is real. Nobody can take that away from you. But to live in the past isn't doing you any justice. It's not serving you any justice whatsoever. You're just going to stay in this constant cycle of harming yourself. The past doesn't exist. The past has gone. If you're able to confront your past, I know some memories can be really painful, and saying it is easier said than done. And some memories might be easier to face than others. But I personally have found that trying to make peace with my past and trying to forgive the past has helped me to move on from the past. I'm not saying that's going to work for everybody. Everybody's situation is difficult, is different. But I feel keeping the past alive is just causing you more pain. And keeping the past alive is just giving you more reasons to find ways to numb your pain. And if you truly want to heal, and if you truly want to start living the life that you deserve to live, then you have to make sacrifices to do that. And one of those sacrifices is facing your past, acknowledging your past, making peace with your past, and letting it go. I'm saying it like it's, a really simple thing to do. It isn't, but technically, that's what you have to do. And in acknowledging it and facing it, you're releasing it. You're regaining control back in your life. You're releasing that pain. You don't deserve to carry that pain with you. You don't deserve to carry other people's bullshit. You don't deserve to carry other people's trauma. You have to find a way to let it go. Otherwise, you will constantly be stuck in a cycle of pain. And the real part of learning to love yourself is putting yourself first, doing whatever you need to do to pour into your cup. Whatever you need to do to pour in your cup is what you need to do. You can chase all the money in the world. You can desire all of the material possessions that you want. You can have the most cosmetic surgery. You can have the most enviable wardrobe and the most amazing house. I can assure you, if you're not doing that real inner work to heal yourself, to love yourself, all of those things are not going to make you feel any different. You will wake up every morning still feeling like shit. Okay? That is a fact. So, focusing on external things to raise your vibration, focusing on external things to improve your life and make you happier, that's not the answer. Everything that you need to make yourself happy begins in here, here, and here. There is nothing external in this world that can give you inner peace, joy, and a real sense of self-worth. The only thing that can give you that is the work you choose to do on yourself. Facing your shadows, facing the parts of yourself that you dislike, facing the parts of yourself that you might feel ashamed of. Not because you should feel ashamed of them, but because other people have made you feel ashamed of them. You're not defined by your past, I promise you. You're not defined by your past and the judgments that people have placed on you. Because the people who place the most judgments on others are the ones who need to do the most work on themselves. Stay away from people who misunderstand you. Stay away from people who are jealous. Stay away from people who don't have good intentions. Stay away from people who judge you. Stay away from people who criticize you. And stay away from people who do not make you feel good. This is the best way to pour into yourself. If you're about to enter into a situation, or if you're about to engage with a particular person, or you're somewhere where you're having to be around people or whatever it is. If that person or that situation doesn't make you feel good, then you know that's not the situation for you. If you walk away from that person or that place feeling drained, feeling unhappy, feeling upset, feeling any way that isn't uplifting whatsoever, that's the only indication you need to not be in that situation. You can choose to go into that situation again, but don't expect it to change. As I said before, there are people out here who will pull you down. They are not here to lift you up. And when you try to lift yourself up, they won't like it. They'll ask you, who do you think you are? They'll start to think that you think you're better than them. And that's not the case at all. To be honest, I had a friend once and he said to me, what other people think about you is none of your business. And at the time, my small brain couldn't comprehend what he meant. But years later, I now understand what it means. What other people think of you is none of your business, okay? You focus on yourself. You stay in your own lane. You mind your own business. You work on your mindset. You work on your heart. You work on being a good person. No matter what people do to you, you don't have to stoop to their level. You don't have to be out here plotting revenge or tit for tat. Don't waste your energy. Don't waste your time. The best thing you can possibly do is walk away. If you get knocked down 10 times, get back up every fucking time. Be a cockroach. Every time someone tries to bash you, come back multiplied. Every time someone tries to knock you down, come back stronger. Don't use your pain to make you weak. Use your pain and turn it into your power. Take your pain and turn it into your greatest strength. If you've been around people who have gone out of their way to destroy you, find the strength within yourself to rise above it. Walk away. That's the best thing you can do. Remove yourself completely. There are people out here who will feed off of your energy. Okay? They are called energy vampires. And they need you to make themselves feel better. They need you to lift themselves up. They need you to feel like they are somebody. Once you remove yourself from those people, completely remove yourself, ruthlessly, don't feel no way about it. I'll say it. I've said it before. I'll say it again. You don't owe anybody anything. If people are not contributing positively to your life, you don't owe them a damn thing. Life isn't easy. Life is full of ups and downs, okay? Life is never going to be one smooth road. And you can choose to look at that as a negative thing, or you can choose to see the beauty in it. I believe everything we go through in life is for our soul's evolution. Every hardship, the grief, the trauma, you can allow it to destroy you, or you can allow it to build you up. Every situation, there is a lesson to be learned. There is growth to be had. And you can walk through the fire and let it burn you, or you can walk through the fire and let it transform you. Do not let it destroy you. Don't let anybody destroy you. You are number one. You have to come first, because When shit hits the fan, the only one you've got is yourself. Be your own best friend. And learn how to pour everything you're pouring into other people, whether it's as a distraction or whatever reason you feel the need to pour your time and energy into others and neglect yourself. You need to stop. Just remember, there is a lesson in everything, and every cloud has a silver lining. You might feel like some things have been sent to destroy you, but there's a positive in everything. And you have to have the faith to believe that, and have the faith to truly believe that whatever situation you are in, you will eventually see your way out of it. Time does not stop. Your time will eventually come. If you're a good person and you're putting good out there, keep doing that. Don't let people change you. Don't let people turn you into a bitter, angry person. No. Don't let people destroy you. Don't give them that satisfaction. Be more compassionate. Be more kind. Pity them. But you don't have to give them your energy. You don't have to give them your time. If people want to misunderstand you, if people want to judge you, bitch about you, let them do it. It's none of your business. Let them do it. Learn to love yourself. Learn to put yourself first. Have boundaries. Let people see that you see your worth. Let people know that you know your worth. Don't allow other people to paint an ugly picture of you, especially one that isn't true. Okay? So, remember to put yourself first. Remove yourself from situations that don't serve you or feed your soul. Don't feel guilty. Don't allow other people to make you feel guilty. If you truly want to heal, you have to realize that the only person that can make that choice is you. And you might want to take the people that you love with you, but it's not their journey, it's yours. And the chances are they won't want to come anyway. So do what makes you happy. Do what's going to take you to the next step. If you do one thing for me today, start building your self-awareness. Start becoming aware of the thoughts that you have. Every time you have a negative thought, no matter how small or insignificant you think it might be, replace it with a positive thought. So, as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to my rant. I'm truly sending these messages with love, kindness, and compassion. And I just want to offer hope to anybody in a bad situation, and just understand and know, have faith, and you can and you will find your way out of it. So I will be back next week with episode 5. So until then, you take care, and I will see you then. Bye.